Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the May 14th edition of Crossing the Divide, the show that promotes and encourages common sense as we analyze and discuss the current events facing the town of Winchester. My name is Glenn Albanesius. As always, I'm joined by Ken Fracasso, and tonight we want to focus on really three things, and number one and foremost is to acknowledge that we do have a deficit here in town. Number two, that the current cost structure for our service base is really unsustainable. And three, we desperately need to get to the reinvestment side of the equation as we fashion our budget for the upcoming year. The meeting that we had on Monday set the referendum date for the budget, June 1st. And today's discussion will basically talk in detail about what that budget currently looks like, some of the facts that have started to come out, and as always, our position on how we move this thing forward in the right way. Ken, I'll let you get started.
Okay, we'll start with a little brief overview. The past week, as Glenn stated, there was a Board of Selectmen meeting at Gilbert School. Immediately following that, there was a town meeting on the budget, and there was also a meeting on Thursday, May 9th, with OPM in Hartford, which I was able to attend. We'll start with the Board of Selectmen meeting. Unfortunately, it was some more bad information as well as misinformation. The deficit that was previously stated at 3.2 has miraculously dropped to 2.8. I'm not quite sure how that happened. I believe that it's higher than that. Some may believe that's true if they ignore the emails from Superintendent Dennehy that was stated in the week, or actually the weekend before the selectmen meeting, that there are $6.9 million in unpaid Board of Ed expenses. We've been over this again. Simply ignoring these unpaid bills, it's not going to make them go away. The deficit's going to continue to grow. We believe that it's closer to $4 million presently. Excuse me. Also, during the town manager's report, I asked some questions about where we stood with OPM, and it was at that point in time that we realized that there was a meeting on Thursday. So as I stated, I did attend that, and we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Right. So at the town meeting on Saturday, June 1st, we will be voting on the budget as proposed by town manager and the majority of the Board of Selectmen. It's Ken and I's opinion that this budget really fixes nothing. It maintains the status quo, which we right along have said is unsustainable, and really more of the same. We feel that there's overstated revenues and underestimated expenses, which is only going to serve to grow the deficit. We feel pretty confident that the direction we're headed here is not a good one. We'll continue to explain why that we're going to vote against this budget, and at the same time try to get people to start to think about really why what's going on right now is headed in the wrong, is heading us in the wrong direction. And those details are important. We've asked and will continue to ask people to spend a little bit of time and drill down to some of the facts here that they really need to be aware of as they make their decision on June 1st.
All right, very good. Just a little bit of an update on the OPM meeting that was held in Hartford on Capitol Avenue on last Thursday. The state is actually looking for two things here. They want an update on Winstead's current financial situation, and they desperately want to know what the plan is to fix the problem. Unfortunately, the town manager's taking the same approach to the state as he has with the town residents here in Winstead. Provide inaccurate and incomplete information. And I know that I don't want to use, I shouldn't say probably scolded, but the chairman of the committee was a little upset that they were presented with some substantial information, a thick packet, the proposed budget being one of them, as the meeting started. And the chairman informed Bill Plummer of OPM that when we meet again in June, that he wants this information at least a week in advance, so he and the committee, which I believe totals 8, has a chance to review the information, which is only,
Common courtesy.
exactly. I mean, how can they comment on stuff that they just receive the very minute that they sit down to the table?
Right.
The claims continue that they try to put this on everything that's wrong on the former finance director, which is not true. It's not correct. And he continues to state that the residents are too cheap to fund the town properly. There is absolutely no plan to fix the problem. One small segment, there is hope that the Water and Sewer Commission will be able to pay $400,000 a year for the next 8 years in order to repay the $3.2 million deficit that has been incurred on their side of the equation. And it's more the same. We cannot continue to pay this year's bills with next year's revenues. We've stated this over and over again. It can't continue to go on like this. At some point we're going to reach a breaking point, and we've stated numerous times that we cannot borrow any money, and that's not going to happen. Even when we get an audit, that's not a automatic pass card in order to borrow money.
Right.
So all these things will continue to hinder us and make the problems grow, the deficit included. So, I mean, we really need to address this thing.
Right, and although I wasn't there, apparently from my discussions with the people that did attend, OPM had a pretty clear message back to the town, and that was to provide detailed and accurate information in advance of the next meeting, which I'm sure that we'll do. Really kind of surprised that we would have to be cautioned about that, but be that as it may. The budget and spend levels need to be obviously what residents support. Obviously, June 1st will be very telling on a number of fronts, whether or not the plan that the majority has put together is palatable. Do they want to take that path and pay higher taxes and supposedly put money in the fund balance and still address the budget or the deficit at the same time? We feel that that's pretty much impossible.
Right. At that meeting, just interject just a little bit.
Yep.
It was roughly 90 minutes. It was a fairly long meeting. There was a fair amount of back and forth between the town manager and the committee, as well as the auditing firm, both auditing firms, I might add. The town attorney, Kevin Nelligan, was present. And I waited till the end of the meeting and before I made any comments, and I specifically asked the chairman and the entire board that was there that what their stance would be if in fact this budget failed, and what kind of recourse or help. And the chairman specifically said to me, that said, if the voters reject this budget because it's too costly, then we need to reduce staff, reduce spending. I mean, it's all the same thing that we've been saying right along. I mean, they specifically said to us that they don't have any amount of money, $5 million, $8 million, whatever, to give to the town of Winchester, that we need to fix this problem ourselves. And if we can't, then and only then will they come in and they've stated that we don't want that to happen. They want us to figure this out on our own.
Right.
I mean, we are one of 169 towns in the state, so they do want us to figure this out.
Right, and that acknowledgement is huge, Ken, because it's the state saying that it's our issue, and that the taxpayers, if indeed they do reject the premise of the budget that's being presented to them, that we need to take steps to fix it. And it's kind of what happened, or we tried to make happen a couple of years ago. The voters approved that approach, and the majority went in and basically undid it. Right. And we are where we are. So I was encouraged to hear that the chairman made the comments that he did, and I think that it provides a little bit of hope that if the voters do turn this budget down, that we've got the state's support in trying to do what we've been
The other comment that was I thought was extremely disturbing was once again something that the town manager said when he made reference to the fact that there was some issues with the W-2 and IRS. Now, we received a letter, I believe it was on April 1st, at our April 1st Selectmen's meeting, that there was some investigation into, something that was, not correct or some misgivings. And in the following day, Friday, there was some statements made by the town manager in the Waterbury Republican that said that he asserted that the incorrect W-2s had cost the town of Winchester $200,000 in underpaid federal taxes. And unfortunately, this is once again bad information and what I'll describe as misdirection. I was at that meeting. That is not what I heard. And the chairman, Mr. Tom Hamilton, specifically asked the auditor after this comment was made that if in fact the town should accrue a liability of $200,000. And she emphatically stated no.
And that was the auditor, Bloom Shapiro?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And actually what she did say was that it was still under investigation, and any discrepancies that were between the finance director, or would be handled between the finance director
And the
IRS.
Right.
I mean, we're talking about withholding tax.
Right.
I mean, so unfortunately, I think it's just, once again, it's something that shouldn't have been said until the investigation is complete. I mean, we've been taught, since we're old enough to understand this kind of stuff, that everyone's presumed innocent until proven otherwise. Mm-hmm. And there's just been way too many. I feel there's been way too many comments, too many slips of the tongue. It's just been constant since last November.
Right.
And we were told by the town attorney, not to talk to anybody. And actually, there's nothing that we've been told. At least the two of us. Right. We don't get much of an update. And I honestly believe that there's other people that do know more than we do. And there again, that's an unfortunate situation. The Board of Selectmen is the Board of Finance, and but for whatever reason, we've been kept in the dark. I actually learn more information about what's going on, or I hear more on the street than I do in meetings or executive sessions.
So Vanessa made it clear at that meeting that at this point, she was not recommending the town accrue any kind of liability.
Absolutely.
For that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, she said that it was ongoing. They hope to have some information by the end of this month or earlier. Mm-hmm. So and I am hoping for the same thing. I mean, this has gone on for a long time. There's plenty of speculation. There's plenty of talk going on out there. I would just like to know what it is. And at that point, we'll deal with it. If there's been something that's done wrong, we'll address it. I mean, I'm sure that if there's something, extremely bad, that the state police will do their job, or the state's attorney's office. But until that time, I just wish that we would stop all this chatter.
And Kevin's been pretty clear to all of us, and it's prudent advice that we just don't say anything, because we don't know the details. We don't know the facts. All that is, ultimately going to come out. And I think the advice, if it isn't heeded, and people talk about conjecture and things that may or may not happen, I just think it adds to the the problem that we're facing right now. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
I think a better path to take is to work on the stuff that we do know.
Right.
And the facts that we do know is that there were no revenues budgeted to pay $9 million in town debt over the last 10 years. That's a known fact.
Right.
The money's had to come from everywhere else in the town in order to pay these debts, and so far we've been able to keep current. As we move forward, that's going to be a different story. Mm-hmm. I mean, we need to find out where we are and what's going to go on.
Right.
So we don't know what the investigation will reveal, but we're waiting for a full and accurate report from the accountants, the auditors, and the police department.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and the majority and the town manager are busy trying to assign blame and cover up the facts. And again, I just think that obscures what's important. And hopefully that stops. We'll continue to maintain that it isn't helpful.
Well, the finger pointing is not helpful at all.
Right.
I mean, as I stated just recently, that the thing is we need to wrap our arms around what exactly the problem is and deal with it.
Right.
pointing fingers at individuals isn't the answer to this.
And the deficit is the problem.
Yes, it is.
Let's face it.
Yep.
I mean, it's
Yep.
a huge problem, and based on the projections for the budget for next year, it's going to grow. And although there is a a minimal attempt to reduce it, I just don't think that when other things happen that we're going to have the money to pay for them.
Yeah. Just this past week, I got a call from Kurt Moffett. I guess there was some sort of a press conference or whatever. They had a little photo op at the Halbert Avenue Bridge, and he asked me for some comments about Ralph Nader's trying to put together some citizen action group about improving the infrastructure. And I said to Kurt, I said, I don't think there's anyone in town that would, disagree with the fact that our infrastructure is in, bad shape. I mean, deplorable shape.
Right.
But the fact remains is, that's the easy part of the equation. It's like, how do we pay for this? And and I said to him that the same thing that we've been talking about for the last 2 or 3 years is we need to reduce our spending, restructure the way that we do business before we can reinvest in the town. And those are all necessary things that need to happen. So, it's a new face that's out there, singing the blues or crying, but it's, until we find a way to pay for this stuff,
Right.
I honestly believe that nothing's going to happen.
Which was my second point in the introduction, that our service base right now is really on an unsustainable level of affordability for the taxpayers. And the sooner we acknowledge that and address it and make changes, I think then we are headed in the positive direction.
Right. And along the same note, we've asked the town manager here again, going on 2 years, to look at ways to restructure the way our town works, to look at other towns, and we've been told by him as well as the Democratic majority on from what I understand, different shows that this is a mission impossible, and it can't be done. Last week, if you tuned in, we gave a brief glimpse at how one of our neighboring towns, Canton, got it done, and we'd like to look into that into a little more detail
right.
today.
Right.
I think that, as we stated, the town of Canton is very similar in geographic size, population, and twice the student body that we have here in Winchester. I believe the presumption is that Canton is wealthier and they must spend more. However, they spend less, and a lot less. They spend 25% less on the town side, over $2.2 million less. And they spend 15% less per student in education, which amounts to over $2 million. And then anyone who drives through Canton, I'm sure, would agree that they have a much better road and infrastructure than we do here. So if we have a chance to look at some slides, if we can bring that up, we'll go over some of those.
And it looks kind of like on the first line, the finance and accounting department. There's a 19% difference between what Winsted spends and Canton. And again, as we go through in detail here, we're going to suggest to the rest of the Board of Selectmen and Dale in particular that, here is an example, probably 9 or 10 miles away, that, if this budget is turned down, we need to very quickly start to engage in a discussion with the people that have been able to manage their budget in a real positive direction for the taxpayers.
Right. And the way that they've done that, Glenn, is through shared staff and systems with the Canton Board of Education. They lower their costs, the salary and benefits and pension, and there's more timely and accurate information.
Right.
There's a brainstorm of an idea,
Yeah.
right?
Something we've been calling for.
Right. And if we move down to the purchasing and data processing, they also combine this with the Canton Board of Ed. And it was done specifically to lower the cost and provide better, more up-to-date and accurate measurement and reporting.
Right. And moving to the town clerk's office, we find a little bit of background here that they have a full-time position that's assisted by part-time staff to cover busy periods. lowered salary, benefits, and pensions costs with work at the same, service, provided at the same level. And that's basically, adapting the work level to the personnel requirements. And if you look and see that that's reduced, or represents a savings of about 11% between Winston and Canton, just in one department.
Right. And they'll find it again with Public Works. The Canton Department of Public Works does significantly more at a lower cost. They run the town's trash facility as well. They maintain the roads and all town recreation facilities, including mowing, and outsources some of its snow plowing. Now here in Winston, we don't do any mowing. We haven't for a number of years.
Right.
But I mean, there's something that they do. And we have taken out the trash facility component, so this is a very fair comparison. Clearly, Winston can do better than it does.
Right, and at 28%, I mean that's a significant, significant improvement. And I'm sure, Ken, as we go through the rest of these, that there's additional details that we're unaware of. But if Dale sat down with whoever's doing the budgeting over there and find out exactly how they got to those numbers.
Right. But the point that we're trying to make here is that it isn't mission impossible.
Absolutely not.
This stuff can and is being done.
Right. Police department, we look at $400,000, a little over $400,000 difference, 22% difference between Canton and Winsted. And apparently the staffing is similar, so we need to find out, how that, and where that $400,000 difference is.
The fire department as well, there is no full-time staff. In salary and benefits alone, there's $100,000 in cost difference. Canton provides affordable stipends with no benefits to selected staff. The town only provides turnout gear, equipment, and physicals based on actual attendance to call and training level. And we went through this, and I asked the chief when he was wanting to replace the turnout gear, because I was a member of the fire department myself, and if we have 130 or 140 members, I don't think there's anyone in town that thinks that 140 guys show up, at every fire call.
Right.
And it's no different than any other facet of life. I mean, there's always going to be some people that do more than others, and I think that that's the fact that they want to have a set of gear for every man. It's not
realistic.
It's not realistic.
No.
There's no common sense involved there whatsoever.
Right.
So, I mean, there is ways to do this. Once again, it's been proven that they can do this. So this is just all things that we need to look at.
Right. And it looks like they discontinued pension based on the membership in 2009, and going forward they now provide a combination of tax abatements and stipends. And public safety, the dispatch, another area that there is marginal savings, but again, as we look to restructure the way our neighboring towns have done, there is some savings there.
Well, Canton, I believe, pays $1.50 per resident, or roughly $15,600. I think Winston pays, I don't know. I know it's more than that.
Right.
I thought ours was around 150 or in that neighborhood.
Right.
The contract negotiations, the ongoing contract negotiation, both Canton and Winston have significant union contracts up for renegotiation. Department of Public Works, police, town staff. Perhaps the clearest sign of the difference in the approach is Canton's reserve of $91,500 versus Winston's approximately $250,000. I mean, that's almost 3 times as much. The town insurance, Winston pays twice as much for the same coverage. I mean, I think that needs to have some look and see what's going on with those.
Absolutely, at a 56% difference between Winston and Canton, that's an obvious.
That's a huge
one.
number.
Right.
We've been saying this for years, though.
Yep.
The employee benefits and insurance, again, because Canton has taken the time to restructure their staffing and benefits throughout the town. Canton's benefit costs are over $400,000 less than Winsted. For the same services, for the same size population, the whole story here is that the $1.9 million for Canton includes $740,000 in pension contributions. Winsted's pension contributions, on the other hand, is only $160,000.
Right.
So, there needs to be some review done there to find out what we're going on.
Yep. And again, if you look at the total numbers, Ken, pretty staggering. Winstead at 12,300,000, Canton at 9.5, a difference of almost $2.7 million
For the town side.
Right.
Right,
For the
yep.
town side. And again, I think that it points to the fact that you have had local leaders keeping the services in line with the taxpayers' ability to pay for those services. And the direction, I'm guessing, is that Canton will continue to be on a sustainable path.
Right. The education, Winston's in the bottom 30%, and Canton's in the top 25%. Again, we need to take a look at that and see what's going on.
Yep.
So, I guess probably getting close to wrapping this up here. I guess just to review there, the problems that we're facing, specifically the $4 million in deficit, in the collapse of our town's economic base. I mean, these are things that we've talked about time and time again that need to be addressed immediately. We cannot roll this forward, as I think that's the line that the other side of the table has been using, because it's not going to happen that way. We're going to fall into the same. It's only going to continue to get worse. We need a budget that pays not only for this coming year's expenses, but the bills that we've already incurred. I mean, we need to pay these. These are real bills. We've said this time and time again. These need to be paid. And we think the only way that that's going to happen is to restructure what we have in town right now.
Right. And I think a collaborative effort by everybody, town manager, board of selectmen, board of education, if the common goal is to get us out of the weeds here quickly, and reposition for the, if when we come out of this, if we do this right, the bounce out of this is going to be significant. We can get to the reinvestment. We can talk about roads. We can talk about, infrastructure. We talk about jobs and businesses coming into town. That's where we all need to get quickly, and the sooner we get to that, the better.
The distraction that continues to, be in front of us from, some of the folks on the other side is not a way to correct the problems. I mean, they can have all the happy talk they want and have all the, people come and say nice things about, there are plenty of nice things, and, I don't want to say that, I don't care for that stuff.
Right.
I do. But to put all our efforts on, as I said, happy talk, it's not going to help us get out of the financial situation that we're in. We need to make hard decisions, and we need to make them now. We can't prolong this. We can't push it off. We can't hope that money from insurance claims or someone moving into town is going to right this ship.
Right.
It's not going to happen. We need to restructure the way we do business in this town.
Right. And we've said time and time again, Ken, that it's going to hurt. It's going to, we're going to incur some pain. But the net result is that Winsted is going to be much better positioned for the taxpayers, businesses, and residents in general. Thank you very much.
Well, come out to vote on June 1st at the referendum at Pearson School from 8 to 8. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.